Dude, it was picking up rain.
On the other side of the room. Honestly, I feel like I almost hear myself too good in this.
Is that an issue?
It throws me off, you know?
Why?
Also because, like,
I mean, you can turn yourself down. That's what the little...
That's just true. It's a really
Your
good
thing
point.
has, like, a protector.
I know, it's still too loud.
I kind of like hearing myself too loud. Makes me feel important.
I like hearing myself, then all the tiny little noises.
Like the creaks of this table.
Yeah. It's alright, we can edit those out. I'll figure that out with my squeaky chairs.
In the post-op. Gotta be careful with your...
With my cup placement.
Could ruin a whole bit.
So many little... yeah, so you like video games?
I do like video games.
Yeah, you do like video games.
I was actually playing video games moments before you arrived.
What were you playing?
I was playing some Rocket League.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Rocket League recently. It's pretty much
recently
the only game I play. Yeah, I mean, I used to be a little more...
For years.
Well, I have played Rocket League since 2016. I actually have the little... It's like a little sticker under my name. It says established 2016 to let kids know I'm legit. I've been around the block, but
we'll let you know that you suck for how long you've been playing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's more of a the bigger issue is that I'm not good enough to have been playing. But I took some time off. Like I didn't really play. I played a lot of video games in high school. Me and my cousin used to play FIFA like every single night. It got to the point where we would just text each other a question mark. And we knew that was enough to initiate a game.
Just one question mark.
We could have just sent a blank text. It was just a space, and that would have been enough. Like it was all we did at that point. FIFA and Halo were my two main. We played a lot of Halo together, you and I.
A little. I never played a lot of Halo.
I mean, you were never any good.
No, I never played. So, do you know what the first video game was?
The first video game. I did watch that little video, and I believe.
Do you know what year? Can you guess what year?
1955, maybe?
Close. The first patented one was 1947. Ooh. It was the earliest one I found.
And what was it?
It was, it was awesome. I was reading about it. It's the first video game patent. It was called the cathode ray tube amusement device.
Sounds like a sex toy.
Dude, this is how it worked. It was like a screen from like a sonar on a submarine.
What's it called?
You know what I'm talking about? It's called the cathode ray tube amusement device.
Cathode ray tube.
Cathode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus! This looks like a flashlight.
Yeah. Well, that was like how the screens work. It's literally like the same type of screen. You know, like when submarines are using their sonar. You know, like with how those screens look, like those little circular screens. It's like that, and they would fire. Oh, this is what you could do. This is the whole game. You could fire a dot. And the dots they told you were missiles. You were just told.
Okay.
You'd never guess. It just looks like a dot. And then the dots, you'd fire these dots at targets. But the targets were pieces of paper taped to the screen. So like you just would send the dots at the pieces of paper that were in the shape of like an airplane or something. And then when the dot got there, it would like light up a little bit more to make it look like an explosion. But obviously it's a piece of paper on the screen, so like that was it.
So did paper just roll through?
Nope. Like, imagine you drew a plane, cut it out, and then taped it to your TV. It's like that. And then you just shot dots. At that. Yeah. Well, like, they didn't move. You didn't pick where the plane went. They had this thing, and that they drew on or taped on the plane, and then they would fire dots at it. And when the dot hit it, the dot would, like, light up a little bit more to let you know that plane's blowing up.
Okay.
And that was the video game.
So was it... I don't know if my brain's comprehending this. Would you have to like put up a new piece of paper every time?
No, that's the thing. There's no... You wouldn't have to do that.
Okay, why?
Because it was the world's worst video game. It's the first video game ever. They got dots moving that you could kind of direct, and they were like, oh, hell yeah. And they directed them at these paper things. And so, like, you would imagine that plane got blown up.
I see.
You know?
Okay.
See, the old video games were a lot like books. So you had to do a lot of the
imagining
the work yourself.
I hate books.
It's like, God damn, this plane's invincible, dude. I've been shooting him all day.
Blasting this thing, hardest game ever. I mean, first game in the 40s, they were probably just shitting their pants to be shooting dots at paper. You know, that sounds pretty lit.
And this was for no one to play. Like, the dudes that created it got to play it using a giant room-sized computer.
Supercomputer back
then. But, like, it is technically the first video game patent. And that's 1947. And then basically video games suck for a very long time. And you have a bunch of iterations of basically exactly that. And then did you?
Is this what it was? Is this the game you're?
Yeah, it looks like it.
All right.
But like they would have imagine they taped a whole plane there or something.
I'm gonna have to watch a video on this
Yeah.
to fully grasp.
That's the first.
Yeah, when did they get fun? Was that the 50s?
No, they didn't get fun until the 70s, like 71.
Well, when did tennis came out?
Yeah, that came out in 72.
Oh, damn! Yeah, that's like the first one that was any fun.
And did you know? It wasn't the first one. It was a ripoff.
What was before?
So I was reading about it. The dude that there was this other company called, what did I have here? Called Magnavox. And the guy that first created Pong sold the patent to Magnavox.
Sounds very familiar.
And Magnavox released Odyssey, which was the Pong game, but not very popular. And it was like I learned recently they're called arcade closets, like the stand-up arcade games.
Yeah.
You knew those were called arcade closets.
I didn't know they were called arcade closets, but
it's
I
an
know
arcade closet if you want one of those.
Why is it an arcade?
That's just what they're called. I just read it in the Wikipedia article.
Okay.
But yeah, so Odyssey releases it. The two guys that worked there leave Odyssey, start their own company, Atari, and launch their first game, Pong. Like a total ripoff of the company they just left.
Sounds like it could be a movie or something.
Yeah, and so then and so then obviously they sued immediately. They were like, "This is obviously Odyssey,
our game."
Our game. And then so they settled it out of court. And then they released the take-home version. And so like Magnavox or whatever got to see the proceeds from that. But yeah, it was a total ripoff.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't the first one. The first game, I looked at this as well, was called Computer Space, and it was like an alien invasion game. And it was an arcade closet. And that was the first consumer-released video game.
I'm gonna have to look into this arcade closet.
Yeah, it's just the name. Like we call them arcade games now, but it was an arcade closet. See?
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's just a stand-up thing.
There's some good arcade closets out there.
There are some great arcade closets.
I feel like the best ones are where you're pressing buttons that like control more of a very simple game, because I've played some complicated ones at the arcades where it's like supposed to be futuristic. You're like in the tube. Yeah, it's like way too much. Like we have that now and it's good. Back then it sucked. So they need to stick to what they know.
At the time when it first came out, like Dance Dance Revolution, a video game.
But that's different. Feet. The one I'm talking about, like I don't even remember what it was, but it was like a virtual reality type game, but it was from like the 90s, so it really was not very good.
Were good ones were the ones where you have a physical plastic gun, but you're pointing it at the screen.
Yeah,
that's kind of like
Deer Hunt,
almost VR a little bit. Like you got the.
It kind of gives me more like Wiimote vibes.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Like the point and sensor, like the motion sensors. That was a big move. We had a.
When you think about it that way, it's crazy it took them that long to get to the Wiimote. If they had those guns in like the 70s, because that's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, were there any other things that you like pointed at virtually? Because I feel like the Wii was kind of revolutionary in that aspect. You're right.
Everyone's forgotten about those arcade gun games. I think we can re-release it.
They had Duck Hunt in the Wii, and that was a classic.
Yeah,
we played a lot of Wii. You could admit that.
We played a lot of Wii.
I mean,
we played the Tanks game. That was a great game.
I think I texted you like a couple months ago. You remember how many levels were in that?
I know we didn't get far.
We would get to like level 15, 20 and be like, oh man, we'll beat it one day. There are 100 levels. 100 levels. We were never going to beat that.
Did you watch the montage of some dude just...
I watched a speedrun, actually.
How long did it take him?
I don't know, maybe like 42 minutes or something.
Okay.
Do you ever watch speedruns?
No.
Oof.
It's
if I go to YouTube, it's like one of the categories it suggests. It's just speedruns.
Because you're into it.
I do like a good speedrun here and there. I watch a good amount. It's
what I watched before was Fall Guys. Because Fall Guys was like there was benefits to seeing like the tricks.
Sometimes the speedruns are like glitches in that game almost, or
luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they got a hammer that launched them to the finish line.
I like speedruns where it's kind of like a challenge that's fought between a bunch of people, because when it's like there was this one speedrun for Wii Golf, which I got pretty invested in. There's this guy on YouTube who does these, like, I'm not kidding, they're like an hour and 10-minute documentaries on just like this one record, the Wii Golf speed run.
The dude that he's got like
he doesn't show his face. It's just like, it's literally a documentary. I feel like I'm sitting down for a fucking movie. Like I saw one the other day about the golf, and it was really well done. He gets so intense, and he basically talks about the back and forth between the records and like the different strategies these guys took, and how they thought they had a record, and then 2 years later some guy discovered, because it was like the 9-hole for the classic Wii Golf, and I guess there's this thing called, it was wind manipulation, which they renamed wind manip, and if you play, there's only like 8 wins they can give you, I suppose, for the holes, or 9, I guess, because there's 9 holes. So for certain holes, if you have certain wins, it makes it possible to do certain things. So in like the first hole, if you didn't get a good wind, you could essentially just restart, because then you have a better chance of getting that wind later on. And then they also learned on like the first hole, it's actually quicker to just go straight into the water, because if you have a shittier score going into the second couple holes, they give you easier pins. Pin manip. I was just like, what? And this guy did like an hour-long doc, and I'm sitting there like watching it, like couldn't believe it. And the record got down. Some like famous YouTuber did it. He did it in like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. It got down to like 4 minutes and 40 seconds. After he took off, like everyone started doing it, and
that's crazy.
It got
4 minutes.
Yeah, because they started doing win
less
minute,
than
pin
30
minute.
seconds a hole.
It was nuts. I mean, there's like, if you have a shot that you can make, it's actually quicker to chip in close, not that close, because then you get a replay if it's a great shot. So you want to do it not that. At first I was like, oh, I could probably do this in 8, or maybe try. And then the video went 40 minutes later. These guys are wind pin manipping, and I was just like, no.
It's a record to go around in 18, right?
It's just 9 in the classic.
Oh, just 9.
The first game only had 9 holes.
Okay.
In Wii Golf, and then Wii Sport Resort added in the new 9, so that made 18.
Okay. I was gonna say 4 minutes would be impossible for 18.
Nah, I mean, I could look it up, but
that'd be less than 15 seconds a hole. They say start. That's 3 seconds. Surely.
Not Wii Sport Classic, just golf.
I like how quickly you found the rankings of Wii Sport, of Wii Golf speed runs.
4 minutes and 43 seconds.
For 18.
For 9. For 18, it's I think 10.
Okay, that's
still pretty crazy.
Still fast.
Yeah. Well, so that's with Wii Sport Resort. This is the classic. This guy said it a year ago. This game's been out since like fucking, I don't know.
Dude, these things take time.
2009.
Right? We didn't break the 4-minute mile until, like 70 years ago.
7 years ago?
70. More than that. It was like the 1930s or 40s.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. Humans have been around for thousands of years.
I mean, don't we break speed records like almost not yearly, but like pretty regularly?
I guess so. No, depends. Some stand for a very long time.
Like, what's the longest standing speed run record?
Oh, dude, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Well,
you know what's dropping crazy is
marathons.
The ultimate speed run. Literal. It's funny you're calling them speed runs. They're just runs when you're a human. They're not. They're speed runs when it's a video game.
That's not true. It's a speed run.
Wait, well, what's the alternative? A slow run?
Like, it's just a classic. I don't speed run.
Okay, yes, but if it's a race, it's a speed run. You want to be fastest.
Well, a race is a speed run.
Okay, no.
A race is a speed run.
Sure.
You wouldn't call it a slow run.
You just call it a run.
These guys are racing too.
But you were saying, what's the fastest speed run? You'd be like, what's the fastest run? You shouldn't need to say speed run for humans.
I thought this was a podcast about video games. I'm trying to keep it relevant over here.
I forget how we were talking. Oh, Wii Golf.
Yeah. Well, there's this website, speedrun.com.
Should I finish my little history of video games?
Please continue.
That was what I looked at. So, you may be wondering.
I was not.
You were probably wondering. You're like, why is Japan so big on video games if the first one was patented in the United States?
Because they took over when they made Atari?
No, Atari was US. We
Nintendo.
just talked about that.
When they made it Nintendo.
Well, Nintendo, but they didn't take. They took off. They took over because there was something called the North American crash of the video game market, and this happened in the 80s, 1983. After what they called the golden age of video games in the States, where everyone was producing these arcade closets and releasing them, and like everyone was investing. It was such a great opportunity. But then what happened is the market got saturated and they lost publishing control. I tried to find out what that is. I couldn't find what it is. Like, what is publishing control?
Publishing control just sounds like copyright stuff.
That's what it sounds like. But why not say copyright?
Like the ability to publish certain games. That's why I think I saw the first game that kind of looked like Mario. It was called like Pipe Bro or Jumpman.
Yeah.
And that was an American game. And then this video game crash happened, and Japan came out with Super Mario Bros. And they just fucking lit it up. Like, so they probably didn't have the publishing rights to make fucking Pipe Jumpman.
It was just worded weird. I was like, I don't know what you mean for sure if you said copyright issues. But whatever. So when that happened, the US game market crashed and all the companies went under. And then that's when Nintendo and Sega were founded, and they took over the market as the US floundered.
Well, thank God.
And like we have my barely come back. Now we have. No, I'm not hating on them. I think it's great, but it was because what the US has what Xbox. What's the another major console made in the US?
PlayStation what?
Sony.
Right,
it's the Sony PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, I guess Microsoft is not just Xbox. Like Microsoft is.
Yeah, but it's a US company. I mean, it's a US.
Yeah, as I'm saying, but Microsoft's not just Xbox. Like
no, I know, but I'm just of gaming consoles. Xbox is the one from the US.
Correct, but my computer is playing all Microsoft games.
Oh, I guess some PCs.
Exactly.
Sure, but PC can kind of be from anywhere.
That's true. I guess it's not necessarily. Well, Microsoft owns a lot of games too, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
I could be mistaken. Well, let's see. That's why we have computers.
Yeah, so the Japanese came back then, and then the final piece of trivia I have here is that in the 2000s, people would only spend money on something called AAA rated games, which basically meant that they had invested a certain amount of capital, they had a certain marketing budget, and they met like all these standards. Basically, they were a safe bet that they would do well in the market. And so that's why in like the early 2000s, when you have like GameCube and Xbox and stuff, that was it. It was like they released games. Those were the only games you could play. Whereas now, dude, they make such tiny little specific games. Like you seen that game recently called Only Up?
Yeah.
Where the people just climb up. It's the entire game. They would never pass in the 2000s. They would be like, we're not sure this is going to work. And the reason those came about is because the internet made distributing these way cheaper and easier. And so now they're willing to take mini bets on all these tiny little games, like Only Up, or even like Fall Guys. Fall Guys is a little rudimentary.
Well, that's the thing though. Those games, like Only Up is $8. Fall Guys is free. Like there's really.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's awesome.
I think the internet.
Free game situation right now is phenomenal. Like most of the games I play are free. Like Rocket League used to cost. I don't know. I paid like what $10 for it back in the day, but now it's free.
Yeah, I got it.
Everyone plays it, and it's such a smart idea because I feel like they make so much more money in those in-game purchases.
It's crazy.
Fortnite did that.
Yeah, until you do it, no one thinks that's going to work.
No.
No one's like, oh, they're going to spend money to look a certain way.
It's so true. Fortnite really destroyed that, and now they got sued though. They had to give a lot of that money back.
Okay, because they were doing like the Carlton dance.
Not even that. It's the lawsuit was that they were essentially like pandering to kids. Like they were making it not really obvious what was going on, and it's like they knew their audience was mostly children, and they had like flashing lights on the coins, and it was too easy.
Like that all ads to kids.
I mean, you're not supposed to advertise to children necessarily for things that like
dude,
like
you've seen a toy commercial, like a super soaker
commercial? But a kid can't go to the grocery store or the grocery store and get a toy like their parents are a little more involved, whereas Fortnite, I guess it was too easy. I don't know, they got sued and they won.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
I don't know how.
It was the skins because they did nothing.
Yeah, there's no, I know it is the skins, but like it's the parents' fault if their kid has access to their credit card info. Because I heard a bunch of those stories where people bought like their kid spent $10,000 on Fortnite skins.
$245 million they settled.
That's so much money.
They sued unwanted in-game purchases. So I don't know why. Am I eligible for a refund?
That's
I never bought any skins.
It was totally just kids buying stuff on their parents' credit cards.
$500 million total. $245 is set to refund. Yeah, that's all it was. Kids just buying shit.
Yeah, I don't think that's Fortnite.
But then I had a couple friends who like bought skins, not as children, and they were like, "Oh, let me get my refund," and they got full refunds, like $100.
That's what I mean. Silly.
Fuck them.
I guess so.
Sorry,
I like
Epic
Fortnite.
Games.
Fortnite's a fun game. But yeah, so that brings us to the 2000s and the current state of the video game world.
Nice.
Roughly.
Well, I feel like there's some space.
Yeah.
GameCube to
of course.
Fortnite is a bit of
that was the 2000s. The 2000s were those AAA games, and then you got they call them. You know why they're called indie games? Indie, indie short for.
No, I'm not even gonna try.
No.
I was thinking like an indie movie, like a cheaper.
Well, it's
budget.
the same thing. Same abbreviation.
Indiego.
What?
I don't know. What does indie stand for?
San Diego. I thought you were gonna guess that it was like Indians pioneered it or something. It sounds like indies.
I didn't know indie was short for anything.
It's short for independent. Yeah, independent.
That makes so much more sense.
I was so surprised.
So what's a non-independent game that I would know about?
Like Call of Duty. All the major games are not.
Why is Call of Duty not independent?
It wouldn't be called an indie game because it was like made by what is it? Microvision,
Activision and Blizzard.
Yeah, so it's like monster gaming companies put it together. That would be a AAA rated game, whereas an indie game would be like only up.
I see.
Yeah.
And Fall Guys.
Yeah, like those tiny little low budget games that were a little bit of a risk.
But like Fortnite was probably a low budget start off, and that was Epic Games. I think they started it, unless they bought it.
There's a lot more going on. I don't know the history of Fortnite, but it seems like more than an indie game.
I'm only gonna support indie games.
Only.
I wonder if Rocket League is an indie game. I don't really play Call of Duty.
I wonder if Rocket League. The lines are blurry now because what this really is an indie game. Because Rocket League's pretty awesome. It's a whole game, and it's free.
It didn't used to be. Rocket League is a moderately sized Tier 2 esports with a passionate global community. Launched in 2015, the video game quickly went to major commercial success for the then indie developer. Oh, so I guess.
See, Google is Rocket League a AAA video game. So that's the rating of like the top-notch big corporate video games.
It's saying, well, Reddit is saying it's gotten to the point.
Oh. Yeah, this is what I mean.
I guess
the indie games are so good now.
AAA game, indie games. So it's just the number of employees at a studio, basically.
For AAA, it's a very loose
for it to be considered an indie game. That's silly.
Oh, that is silly.
I guess it's not, because like you're only a rookie for 1 year. You're only an indie artist for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like breweries where I think what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're like a craft brewery can only be considered craft if you're a small house. And I think Sam Adams used to be considered a craft brew, but they got too big, and now they're just beer.
Yeah, these rules are dumb. One of my favorites is farm to table restaurants.
Well,
as though all these other restaurants are getting it from not a farm.
I think farm to table implies there's not a middleman. Like the farm is cooking your food.
Like the chef picked it up from the farm himself.
I think that's this idea. Like
no, probably the farm delivers it to them on a truck.
No. Like the meal is at a farm, or like the food is.
There are farm to table restaurants in New York City.
Okay, that's a little. Well, I mean,
and people are like, oh, that's nicer. It's farmed.
I feel like that has. If they're using the word, I'm not going to speak passionately about this, but I feel like if they're using the word, it might imply some standard where like there was no freezing or any sort of.
Dude, there's no standard. What do you think counts as processed food?
Anything that's got chemicals in it.
Anything that's been changed at all. If you chop up a carrot before you eat it's processed food.
It's according to whom?
According to the definition. I looked it up. The definition of processed food is food that's been altered from its original state. So if you cook it, if you cut it, even arguably as you chew it, it has been processed.
I guess there's no centralized criteria by which farm to table is defined. But I mean, that's anything. Best pizza in New York, like.
Yeah, that's different. People advertise farm to table. It's like, come eat at our healthy restaurant. And like, well, I mean, and I love the implication. Like, I like the idea that they say like, I'm a farm to table restaurant. Meanwhile, all restaurants get their food from farms. So tacitly, they're implying that the other restaurants, you're actually not eating at a table. We're farm to table. I'm like farm to.
Couldn't you say that about any advertising though? Like super delicious pizzas or amazing treats.
But you're not saying super delicious. You're trying to say like, yeah, it's silly because it's like a craze. People are like, ooh, it's farm to table. This must be nice. When they go to some other restaurant.
When I hear farm to table, I think of you're eating at a farm.
But
the food has been the cow died and now it is.
I'm sure there's one within a 10-block radius of where we are right now.
We should go test it out. Ask him a bunch of questions. Bring the mics.
I feel like we've been wondering about this farm trade debacle.
Should we have drinks? Like not coffees? Loosen us up. That's what they do on the shows.
Sure, let's do it.
I got a cigar over there.
Just grab it, dude. We can cut any of this stuff out.
Okay.
As we do this. Also, that was the end of my video game facts.
Oh shit.
So we're going on just raw knowledge now.
How much time have we should have started the timer. I have, but I can't be drinking these on camera, so I'm gonna dump or finish the rest of this coffee and just pour it in.
Oh, I can't be drinking this.
Let's get embarrassed for the Trulies.
I'm not embarrassed. Trulies.
I'm gonna rip you apart for it.
That was nice. That was a little bit of can ass.
Oh, I want to get mine in.
Yeah.
Good call. Good call. Oh my god.
Oh, dude.
Can't believe this guy's drinking it truly.
My Truly's definitely gonna taste better.
Mine?
No, mine. It's not mixed with Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
I dumped all the coffee out.
Ah.
This looks like lean. It's pink.
Yeah, you'd think it would be blue.
I know, it's blueberry. I don't know where to throw this.
God, that was so loud.
It was pretty loud.
So much louder than I thought it was going to be.
Louder than it would have been in real life. Jesus, this tastes insane out of this mug.
Like, why?
I don't know, just try it. It just tastes too much. It's so cold. And it's just a lot of it.
Yeah, it does taste. I don't know why that's different. Like it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's, I've never had a.
Like ready for coffee.
It feels like it's a slushy almost.
A little bit. I mean, it is.
Melts
like
slushy.
Sugar and alcohol.
So what do we do now? We just riff about video games?
Well, I was hoping you'd come in with some cool facts.
Facts?
I don't know. What did you learn with your history of video games?
Well, pretty much what you just talked about. I talk about. I feel like I contributed to your facts.
Did. No, it was good. It was good. But yeah, but I like the idea of
speed runs.
Speed runs.
Where was your speed run? No,
I covered the speed runs.
I could go on about speed runs.
How about this? I like the idea that gamers and like video game creators are now on a mission to really stick it to their moms as a whole. Because like growing up, all moms were like, "What a waste of time video games are! Like you're gonna waste your life doing this." And now like all the new news articles are like, they're now training doctors with VR. Like
they just
they're like, "What now, mom?"
they came out with that movie like recently about the kid who trained Formula One on like a driving set, and then they put him in an actual race. And I guess it's based on a true story. But
was he good?
I don't know. I didn't watch the movie. Oh. It just came out. It's like I don't even know if it's out yet. But
it'd be really funny if the climax of the movie is that he still sucks.
Well,
like he's not ready for it at all.
Let's see. Brad Pitt's in it.
Okay, he's probably does well then.
I don't think he's the. He's the villain.
What, a real race car driver? Who's the villain?
This might be the wrong movie. F1 movie, VR, kid. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to say. Gran Turismo. Here we go. I feel like that was already a movie.
I swear Clint Eastwood is a grandpa.
Well, this is the 2023 Gran Turismo, where there's no racist slurs, I imagine.
Although that's not a racist slur. It's just that's what they were.
Have you seen Gran Turismo?
No, Gran Torino.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
There's a ton of racist slurs.
Yeah, but the whole theme of the movie is that these racial slurs are endearing. Right? Is that the theme of the movie?
No, I'm pretty sure Clint Eastwood's just a racist, and then he grows a heart, kind of like the Grinch situation.
For one Mexican in particular, right?
I also don't believe they're Mexicans. I believe they're Vietnamese or something. That might be misspoken. They're not Mexicans.
I don't know, dude.
Because he uses Asian slurs.
Well, yeah. You're right. It starts out he's racist.
He is racist.
No. But then you learn he just hates everyone equally, which in its own way is not racist. You know what I mean?
I don't think because he
wasn't excited to see white kids on his lawn. You know, that would be racist. But if he's like to everyone, like, and just calls them the worst, and he's like, if like white kids came on his lawn, he's like, get out of here, you honkies. You know what I mean? Just as long as it's even, I think you're okay.
I guess that's fair. But it seems unnecessary to use those words.
Yeah, well, you didn't do 2 tours in Nam like Clint
Eastwood's character did. I suppose I didn't.
It was cool. It was a badass movie, and he didn't really.
That was a great movie, to be fair.
Like the lighter thing at the end, where he pulls it out.
He dies at the end, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He wants the gang to get charged with this murder, so they don't kill the other kid.
Classic Clint Eastwood.
And so he looks like he's pulling out a gun, but really,
you know how old he is in that movie?
Like 85.
Literally, I think he was in a movie recently where he's like 90 plus.
He's 93, I think. He's still doing movies.
There's no shot.
He was in spaghetti westerns.
Podcasts on them.
But you know how I got to start spaghetti westerns?
I don't even know what the hell that is.
Oh, you don't know what spaghetti westerns in like history class?
It's spaghetti western. I thought it was like a movie.
Yeah, it's a type of movie. It's like the cowboy movies from the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And they call them spaghetti westerns.
Why?
I believe because they were all filmed in Italy.
I just typed in, I spelled spag so wrong, and it already knew what I wanted. This thing's listening.
Spaghetti, it's totally listening. It's listening the best it ever has.
Django's a spaghetti western?
No.
That's what this says. Popular.
No, it doesn't. The Google auto. No.
Oh, the 1960 Django. Obviously, is what I was talking
about. It is a spaghetti.
Wow,
western.
You thought I was talking.
But what else? Yeah. Yeah. So like, because they were all filmed in Italy, because it was cheap, or like they had sets there or something.
Oh, mid 60s.
They were westerns.
And Clint Eastwood is the man with no name.
Yeah, dude. Unforgiven. And there's another spaghetti western with I think
Sergio Leone. Whoa. That's a character right there.
And you know, they didn't have special effects, and we had to learn about this in history class. And one of the things we learned is like they would hire sharpshooters to do like the crazy shots for the scene. So like one is that the guy shoots puts a stamp on a ring, like a stamp for a letter, and flicks it in the air. And then the whole thing in the scene in the movie is that he shoots it in the air and punctures the stamp, you know, because he's so precise. Mm-hmm. And they had an actual sharpshooter shooter stand behind him and actually do that. So like. That's crazy. Because like there was a dude that could actually
Someone was shooting it.
You're like, oh, it's just special effects. The special effect is just another really guy actually doing it. You know? It's like if they swapped in real Spider-Man for Tom Holland.
I mean, that's kind of like a stuntman though nowadays.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's just funny. Like now they wouldn't do that. They would just have some special effect where the stamp busts a hole when they push a button.
Movies are dead.
Yeah. But it's just funny, like they subbed in the sharpshooter.
I mean, it probably looks better now with the special effects. Probably looks more realistic than that did.
Probably. Well, it's also just better cameras.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what they did was fine. Like we watched the little clip, you know, and it's just the dude's just slightly off screen, and he's just.
You know, a movie purist might notice that bullet didn't come from the right
angle. Right. Well, you know what I learned recently? So I've been interviewing these people, and I asked them at the end, I was like, what are your hobbies? And one dude says he's into old movies. And which was honestly maybe the coolest answer. Everyone else said, like, reading, video games, movies, running. That was it.
Who were you asking?
I was interviewing people for a role at my company. But yes, he said that, so I asked him about movies. You know, more than half of the movies created before, like, the mid-1930s are destroyed. And we have no existing copies
before
of them.
Before the 30s?
Yeah, there was a famous fire where they'd been collecting like these old movies. Like there's only one copy. It was still like a physical film roll. It wasn't digital. And there was a famous fire because these all like it's a plot point in Inglourious Bastards is he sets the movie theater on fire using the tapes. They were actually that combustible. And so this big fire burned in this building.
The Fox Vault fire?
That's the one I was thinking of. Fox Vault Fire.
A couple of Google searches.
But yeah, it destroys a bunch of these precious, one-of-a-kind films from like the 1930s or older.
Terrible.
And so like, you know,
Hey, someone died too.
There's a movie out there that your grandma's seen that we will never be able to see.
I doubt she saw them though, right?
Yeah. Well, my grandma definitely didn't see them. She's blind. Didn't hear them either.
Cool vibes and good times. You're at the Moose Lounge. I'm Brian Farrell. That's Eddie Stone. We'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.